Imagine a scandal that could shatter the very foundation of the British monarchy, the secrets surrounding the birth of Archie, son of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, where every fact conceals a shocking lie capable of erasing titles and exposing a grand deception. In this video, we will dissect one of the most explosive scandals in the history of the royal family, which is gaining momentum right now. What if everything you knew about Archie's birth was a carefully orchestrated sham? The scandal surrounding the birth of Archie, the first child of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, has reignited with new force. This time, the cause is a statement from a medical institution where, according to the official version, Duchess Meghan Markle supposedly gave birth to her son. The hospital mentioned in the documents categorically denies that Meghan Markle was present there on the alleged day of birth. Staff members, citing internal security protocols, claim that on May 6, 2019, no woman named Meghan Markle or with a royal access code was admitted to the ward that, according to media reports, was reserved for the Duchess. Moreover, their official registration logs completely lack information about a patient matching her description. This statement has caused a real uproar in the British tabloids and sparked a storm of discussion on social media. Immediately after the information was published, attempts were made to obtain clarification from the representatives of the dukes. However, both Meghan and Prince Harry remain completely silent. Meanwhile, the palace has also not issued any explanations, which only fuels suspicions. If this information were false, why wasn't it refuted immediately? Against this backdrop, the strangeness of Archie's very appearance resurfaces. Unlike Kate Middleton and Princess Diana, Meghan refused the traditional photo shoot on the steps of the hospital, explaining it as a desire for privacy. But now, years later, this decision is interpreted differently, as an attempt to hide the fact that the birth might not have happened. Of particular interest is the time gap between the official date of birth and the first public appearance of the baby. Archie was first shown after 2 days, while usually a newborn is presented within a few hours. The dukes explained this as a desire to be with family, but in the new circumstances, this sounds like a pretext for staging the appearance of the child. Hospital staff also noted the absence of royal doctors, who are usually required to be present at the birth of a member of the monarch family. In Meghan's case, none of the obstetricians who had previously worked with the royal court were seen. This is confirmed by a former employee of the centre. If childbirth takes place without the presence of the approved monarch medical staff, it cannot be formally documented as compliant with the protocol. Among the documents causing the greatest bewilderment is Archie's birth certificate, signed later than the date of birth, and with obvious violations in the fields for the mother and place of birth. In the mother's occupation field, it reads, Princess of the United Kingdom, a title Meghan has never officially held. In addition, it was later revealed that changes were made to the document, and the original was never provided to the public. All of this combined suggests that the entire story of Archie's birth may be a constructed narrative, and if this is confirmed, the consequences will be catastrophic. Archie is not just the prince's child, he is sixth in line to the British throne. His origin matters not only to the family, but to the monarchy itself. Public reaction to the hospital statement was not long in coming. The hashtag #WhereWasMeghan is gaining popularity on Twitter, and numerous bloggers are starting to publish their investigations, questioning every stage of Archie's birth story. Lawyers are demanding an independent investigation, and some parliamentarians are even proposing to create a special commission. If the royal family does not provide transparent answers in the near future, the crisis may get out of control. After all, it is not only about trust in Meghan and Harry, but also about trust in the entire monarchical system, which now looks as if it is capable of fabricating not only titles, but also the heirs themselves. Immediately after the shocking statement from the medical facility that Meghan Markle did not give birth on their premises, the public began to re-examine every element of the official version of Archie's appearance. One of the most disturbing aspects was the almost complete lack of evidence that childbirth actually occurred, an unprecedented case in the history of the British monarchy. Traditionally, the birth of a child in the royal family is accompanied by a number of public actions. An official notice at the gates of Buckingham Palace, a photograph with the baby and parents on the steps of the hospital, comments from doctors confirming the fact of childbirth. These are not just elements of a show, but parts of a centuries-old protocol that ensures transparency and public trust. When Kate Middleton gave birth to each of her 3 children, she appeared before cameras a few hours after giving birth. Princess Diana did the same. These moments were not just symbols. They proved that the birth took place in accordance with the rules of the monarchy. However, in the case of Meghan and Archie, every stage of this procedure was violated. There were no royal court doctors, no press release with the names of the medical personnel, no moment of official signing on the spot. Moreover, Archie's first photo shoot did not take place near the walls of the hospital, but in the interiors of Windsor Castle in a closed environment without journalist accreditation. The photo aroused suspicion. Even then, the baby was wrapped up in such a way that it was impossible to see any facial features or physique. He looked more like a doll than a real child. Some experts, including well-known obstetricians, expressed doubts that a woman could look so fresh and fit just 48 hours after giving birth, especially if it was her first birth. The absence of swelling, natural fatigue, signs of lack of sleep or pain, all of this heightened suspicions. Additional questions were raised by the strange schedule. The official date of birth is May 6, 2019. However, the first public message appeared only more than 8 hours after the alleged event, and then a 2-day pause until the photo. For a monarchy known for its efficiency in such cases, this is an inexplicable delay. Another important point is the lack of a record in the hospital log. Under traditional conditions, the name of the woman in labor, especially if she is a member of the royal family, is recorded in a confidential registry. In Meghan's case, no such data was found, and the institution's employees directly confirmed this. Even taking into account the possible confidential status, the zero registration of the patient raises questions. Previously, former palace employees shared in interviews that communications with Meghan's team were always extremely closed, and any attempts to clarify the details of childbirth met with resistance. One of the anonymous sources stated, "The situation was such as if everything had already been planned in advance. There was no place for spontaneity or transparency." In response to the wave of doubts, Meghan and Harry did not make a single official statement. This only exacerbates the crisis of trust. After all, if everything happened for real, what prevents them from presenting photographs from the hospital, the names of doctors, confirmation of childbirth? Today, in the era of digital transparency, such silence is perceived as disrespect for society. Dozens of videos continue to appear on social networks, where bloggers compare the Duchess's behavior with the behavior of other women after childbirth. Even her movements are discussed: inclination, seating, gestures. Many users point to the unnaturalness of these actions, comparing them with videos of other mothers. And again, the same question returns: was there a pregnancy at all? Against the backdrop of a lack of evidence and violated traditions, the story of Archie's birth is now not just a cause for interest, it is becoming a symbol of how you can manipulate reality, hiding behind a title, the press, and the protection of personal life. If it turns out that there is a staging behind this, the consequences will be catastrophic, especially given that Archie and his sister Lilibet formally claimed titles and participation in the royal hierarchy. Society demands not just explanations, it demands transparency, as the monarchy itself requires. With each new twist in the discussion surrounding Archie's birth, public attention is increasingly focused on those materials that have long been considered secondary, on video recordings of Meghan Markle's public appearances during her pregnancy. But it is these shots that are the subject of scrupulous analysis today because they contain details that are becoming increasingly difficult to explain. Logically, one of the first strange signals was the so-called falling belly, recorded in an episode when Meghan leans down to hug a child in the crowd. In the video, it is noticeable how the belly abruptly shifts down and forward, which is physiologically impossible in the later stages of pregnancy. This has spawned dozens of theories, among which the loudest is that Meghan could have worn a prosthetic false belly, imitating pregnancy. Such videos have gone viral. Users of TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram break down each episode, making slow-motion replays and overlaying graphics. One such analysis has garnered over 10 million views, pointing out how the belly changes shape depending on the pose, sometimes even looking flat at a certain angle. All of this challenges the official version. No less discussed was Meghan's behavior while moving. According to obstetricians and gynecologists, a woman in the late stages of pregnancy has a characteristic gait, heavier with restrictions in flexibility. However, Meghan moved easily and gracefully in many videos, without signs of discomfort. Of particular note was her appearance on a show in London, where she climbs the stairs in high-heeled shoes with a posture uncharacteristic of the 8th month of pregnancy. Journalists from the Daily Mail conducted their own investigation, comparing photos of Meghan with pregnant women at a similar stage. According to them, the size, shape, and dynamics of Markle's belly differed from the medical norm. Experts invited to the analysis could not give a definitive explanation, except for one: it doesn't look natural. Special attention was drawn to a video where Meghan, sitting on an interview, supposedly holds her belly with her hand. At some point, her hand slips and her belly changes position again. These details were previously written off as features of clothing or optical illusions, but now, in the context of new accusations, they are perceived as key elements of staging. Internet users began to make entire cuts of inconsistencies: a belly that appears and disappears, sometimes huge, sometimes small, of various shapes. Some even claim to see seams on the overlay under the clothes. All these clues would not be so weighty if it were not for the main thing, the lack of refutations from the couple themselves. Not a single suspicion has been commented on, not a single record has been explained. In addition to the video, there is also the question of photo shoots. In one of the official portraits published on the Duke's website, Meghan's belly looks extremely unusual, with a flat bottom and an asymmetrical silhouette. The photographer who did the shooting refused to comment on whether there was a photo montage, citing a non-disclosure agreement. New statements from the surrogate mother only add fuel to the fire. The woman claims that during the entire pregnancy, Meghan was not present at any examination. All tests were carried out personally with her. In addition, Meghan's team allegedly developed a detailed scheme for appearing in public with before pregnancy, including the choice of clothing, camera angles, and behavior. If this information is confirmed, then we are dealing with a large-scale and pre-planned theatricalization, and this is no longer just a strangeness. It is a deliberate deception, encompassing millions of viewers around the world. Nothing like this has ever happened in the history of the monarchy. And if earlier the British Crown could afford secrecy, now, in the era of digital zoom, slow-motion videos, and artificial intelligence, it is impossible to hide a lie in the frame. Every millimeter of video is a subject of analysis. Every gesture is a potential scandal. Thus, the videos of Meghan analyzed by frame become indisputable evidence of a violation of the logic of pregnancy. And in combination with the silence of the parties, all this pushes the public to one conclusion: everything could have been a lie from the very beginning. One of the most disturbing elements of the entire story with Archie's birth remains the official documents. More precisely, their absence or inconsistencies with reality. In any country in the world, a birth certificate is the main legal proof of the birth of a child. However, in the case of the son of the Dukes of Sussex, even this seemingly formal step is shrouded in mystery. Archie's birth certificate was published with a delay, and when it finally appeared in public access, attention was immediately drawn to several inconsistencies. First of all, in the mother's occupation field, it was indicated Princess of the United Kingdom, a title that Meghan never officially held. According to royal protocol, she could be designated as the Duchess of Sussex, but not as a princess. Next is the place of birth. According to the document, the birth took place at Portland Hospital, an elite private clinic in London. But, as previously stated by the staff of the institution, on May 6, 2019, Markle's name did not appear in the lists under either her real name, or a pseudonym, or an encrypted royal code. Moreover, witnesses working in the hospital said in anonymous interviews that there were no signs of increased security or blockages of premises that day, a common practice when members of the royal family are present. If the Duchess gave birth to us, we would know this throughout the clinic: security, closed corridors, duty doctors. That day, this was not, said one of the employees. Another disturbing fact is the making of changes to the document after publication. The Duke's press service explained this as a legal adjustment, but the changes concerned precisely the controversial wording of Meghan's title. Why make changes if everything was originally drawn up correctly? Why were the documents signed several days after the alleged birth with a clear gap in time? The public demands answers, but the Sussex family continues to maintain a deathly silence. Neither Meghan, nor Harry, nor their press service provides evidence or explanations that could relieve tension. This silence is no longer perceived as the right to privacy, but as a manipulation of public opinion. In conditions where every element of the official version raises questions, even the most banal details are questioned. For example, why was there no ambulance visit recorded at the house where, according to the couple, the home birth took place? Where are the CCTV records? Where are the obstetrician's conclusions? Of particular concern is the behavior of some representatives of the Duke's team. According to reports, according to the British press, several employees who worked with Meghan during her alleged pregnancy suddenly left their positions without explanation, having signed a non-disclosure agreement, NDA. Moreover, as it turns out, this agreement extended even to matters concerning the logistics of childbirth. Lawyers analyzing the situation claim that if Meghan did not actually give birth, but presented herself as having done so while providing false information to government authorities, this could entail criminal liability for submitting false information in a legal document. Furthermore, this has international implications. Since Archie, as a US citizen by his mother and a UK citizen by his father, may be eligible for a range of legal and diplomatic privileges, the question of the authenticity of his documents takes on global significance. Finally, attention is drawn to the fact that, despite such serious allegations, the royal family is also making no official statements. Neither Buckingham Palace, nor Clarence House, nor the King's personal representatives are commenting on the situation. The question is, are they protecting their own or trying to distance themselves? And while silence is maintained at the official level, public confidence is growing that what began as a private story has turned into a carefully crafted operation to create the desired image. But every lie has an expiration date, and perhaps, in Meghan Markle's case, that date is already expiring. The scandal surrounding Archie's birth is rapidly ceasing to be just a personal drama or a tabloid sensation. With each new revelation, the matter takes on a constitutional scale, threatening the foundations of the British monarchy and its perception in society. For the first time in decades, the public is questioning not just the words of one member of the royal family, but the very mechanism for recognizing the status of heirs to the throne. According to the Act of Settlement, only legitimate and biological descendants can claim the throne. If it turns out that Archie is not Prince Harry's biological son, or was born through surrogacy without proper legalization under British law, his right to titles and place in the line of succession is automatically revoked. This is not just a symbolic gesture, it is a legal norm, violating which means undermining the legitimacy of the entire monarchical structure. Moreover, if it is confirmed that the Sussexes deliberately concealed this fact, providing the state and the public with distorted information, this will be regarded as an act of deception and abuse of trust. The consequences may include not only the deprivation of titles, but also the revocation of state privileges, funds, and funding provided to both their children and the couple themselves. British media are already reporting on secret meetings at Buckingham Palace. According to The Times, senior members of the royal family, including King Charles III and Prince William, are discussing scenarios for neutralizing the crisis, up to and including the complete exclusion of Harry and his children from the line of succession. Such a step would be unprecedented, but not impossible. History remembers how King Edward VIII was forced to abdicate the throne due to the incompatibility of his personal life with the requirements of the crown. Against this backdrop, pressure from Parliament and society is increasing. Some lords and members of the House of Commons are demanding an independent investigation under the control of the Constitutional Affairs Committee. Their position is simple. If the monarchy exists on taxpayers' money, society has the right to know the truth about the status of every member of the family, especially the heirs. Experts in international law point to another danger. Since Archie has American citizenship, in the event of recognition of surrogate birth without proper British procedures, a jurisdictional conflict may arise that will affect both sides of the Atlantic. The US officially recognizes surrogacy, while the UK has strict requirements for transparency and legal formalization of such cases. Meanwhile, public sentiment is becoming less and less loyal. YouGov polls show that more than 60% of Britons are demanding that the Sussexes disclose full information about Archie's birth. Another 48% are in favor of annulling all royal titles for Harry and Meghan's family if it turns out that they lied. All this could lead to the crisis, which began as another tabloid sensation, blowing up the foundations of the monarchy, exposing its vulnerability to digital society and the requirements of full transparency. Never before has a legacy built on symbols been at such risk of destruction. Paradoxically, it is those who declared a new, open, and inclusive monarchy who are now its greatest destroyers. Meghan and Harry, who tried to break away from the toxic system, ended up drawing the royal court into the most severe crisis since the death of Princess Diana. And if the truth comes out and the documents turn out to be falsified, not only will Archie's status be called into question, but also the monarchy's ability to adapt to the challenges of the 21st century. The monarchy may survive the scandal, but whether it survives betrayal remains to be seen. While the royal family remains silent, and the Sussexes hide behind a screen of privacy, the media space is filled with a new reality, a destroyed image created by years of public appearances, interviews, and tearful revelations. The image of a heroic couple fighting injustice is today taking on the outlines of a cold, planned campaign of manipulation aimed at gaining trust and influence through distorted truth. Since moving to the US, Meghan and Harry have actively built a myth. Love against the system, motherhood as a struggle, children as a symbol of hope. Every interview, starting with the resonant conversation with Oprah Winfrey, was built around the narrative. We were exiled, but we maintained our dignity. However, now, in light of suspicions surrounding Archie's birth, everything takes on a new hue. All these performances could have been part of a theatrical strategy, and not emotional truth. Many recall with new alarm an episode from the interview where Meghan tearfully talks about the difficulties of pregnancy, hinting at the threat of miscarriage. Emotions that touched millions then now seem to be a tool for manipulating public sentiment. If she was not actually pregnant, then this scene is not just a lie, but a betrayal of public sympathy. Particular attention is drawn to the choice of topics in which the couple invested their influence: the fight for mental health, female representation, media honesty. All of them were noble, but today they look like a shield from questions, behind which you can hide from uncomfortable revelations. Critics note, Meghan used the language of feminism and trauma not as a way to fight, but as a shield behind which she built her status. The royal family, despite numerous blows, is trying to preserve the remnants of dignity. However, it is clear, if the truth comes out, the consequences for the monarchy will be long-term.